Hello friends! It's finally that time of year when I get to recommend my favorite spooky books, and I'm so excited because these are amazing. They're all really scary and I think you guys are gonna like them. I will be recommending 10 today, and I do have categories. So we've got an adult category, YA, middle grade, classics, and one graphic novel. So let's jump right in. Let's start with the graphic novel. So if there was a book to kind of save 2020, I'd say that it would be Fangs by Sarah Anderson. And isn't this cover so it gives me major classic gothic vibes, and it has sprayed edges. They are black. So this is a love story between a vampire and a werewolf. It is so pure and wholesome, charming, and perfectly gothic. I think the author did a fantastic job capturing the essence of classic gothic comic book vibes. I'm going to read a blurb that I saw for this book because I think it does a really good job explaining why I love it so much. It says, "It would be very easy to dive into overdone, shallow tropes of vampire versus werewolf, where the vampires are rich and the werewolves are poor, or vampires are refined and werewolves are brash. Instead, Anderson takes monster tropes and creates beautiful parallels with real-world relationship issues." So if you want to pick up a book that's slightly less spooky but still gives you vibes of books that you would read in October, definitely think about picking up Fangs. It's one of my favorite books of the year. Okay, let's do middle grade books next. And I'm not kidding when I say this middle grade book for me is scarier than all of the adult books on this list. So that's saying something. This is a very scary middle grade book. This is definitely one you don't want to read at night. But if you want to get lost in a good ghost story that also has a lot of history and deeper messages, then this is for you. It is Scritch Scratch by Lindsay Curie. This is about a girl named Claire who is a scientist, and her dad is kind of obsessed with everything paranormal. He runs late night ghost tours in Chicago, and Claire thinks it's all ridiculous. Until one night she is forced to help her dad on one of these ghost tours, and a very troubled spirit might follow her home afterwards. On the cover it says, "Something terrible followed her home." And indeed it did. There is no friendly ghost in this story. There's no Casper. No, this is scary. The atmosphere is so spooky. It gave me literal goosebumps by page 31. It gets spooky really quickly. I loved every morsel of this book as I devoured it, even though it kept me up at night and I had to watch the Great British Baking Show to help myself be able to fall asleep and not have nightmares. So I highly recommend this one if you want a really good ghost story that is a pretty fast read and just super scary. So this next middle grade book isn't one book per se, as it is a series of books. That would be Goosebumps. Now, I know most of us have already read these. I actually never did because I was always too scared, and I started reading these as an adult. So here's the thing about Goosebumps. As an adult, you might read it and think, this isn't very scary, but I think if you harness your inner child and allow yourself to detach this from being compared to actual horror or something like A Haunting of Hill House or Dracula, then you can still find it scary if you allow yourself to. I definitely do. I mean, I don't get as scared reading these as I did when I was reading The Haunting of Hill House, but there's still something nostalgically scary about these. You could do a little Goosebumps marathon. You could even read a few of the books, get a little bowl of candy and some popcorn and watch the film. Look at that ghost, it's scary. So yeah, I think these are always perfect for October. So let's move on to the adult books. Oh my gosh, oh, okay. This one is spooky and perfect for October. It literally has the word autumn in the first sentence, which is how you know it's gonna be a great fall read. And that is An Inquiry into Love and Death by Simone St. James. A lot of you might know this author from, I think it's called, is it called Broken Girls? Oh, I don't remember. I'll put a picture of it right here. I feel like a lot of people have been reading this and it might be one of her most popular novels. This is only her second novel. It's less popular, but oh my goodness, I loved this. This is one of my like new favorite autumn reads. Now, this is one of those times when you don't want to judge a book by its cover. It doesn't really pull me in or make me want to pick up the book. This one is an amazing book in disguise with a not so great cover. We've got a very relatable and likable main character who also happens to be one of the first women studying at Oxford. It involves ghost hunting, one of my favorite things in scary books, a mysterious murder at a small seaside town, 1920s England vibes. We've also got a very handsome Scotland Yard inspector. It doesn't get much better than that. At the heart of this, we've got a ghost story mixed with some romance sprinkled in there. Our main character is named Gillian, and after her ghost hunting uncle dies, she drives to the seaside town to pick up his belongings. During her first night staying at his house where he did all of his ghost hunting, terrifying things start to happen. Let me tell you, I had to turn on the lights all throughout my house because I was reading this in the evening and I didn't realize it would get spooky so quickly, but it did. So Gillian is convinced that there's an angry spirit, an angry ghost trying to enter the house. She comes to find out that there's this kind of famous ghost in this seaside town named Walking John, and she starts to think that it might be Walking John that's trying to communicate with her. And she starts to wonder if maybe there are more ghosts roaming around the woods at night. And then she starts to wonder, was Toby's death an accident or was it murder? And it's so good. So another amazing book about ghosts. If you like ghosts with some romance as well and a very relatable main character, definitely think about picking this one up. It was such a good surprise. Next, we've got Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is an amazing twist on the classic haunted house story. It has major gothic vibes and might be my new favorite Riley Sager book. The dedication says, "For those who tell ghost stories and those who believe them." Dun dun dun. On the first page, it says, "Every house has a story. Ours is a ghost story." All you really need to know is that it's about an infamous Victorian mansion that may or may not be haunted. And that this family used to live there when this girl was really little, and then her dad dies, she has to go back to the house and figure out what she's gonna do with it. But while she's there, bells ring themselves, record players turn on and play music in empty rooms, and ghosts climb out of wardrobes. If you want to get scared and you want a more lengthy novel than like Scritch Scratch, definitely go for this one. It also, I feel like, pays a lot of homage to The Haunting of Hill House, which is one of my favorite classics that I may or may not be talking about a little bit later. So I absolutely love this one. So this next one also kind of has haunted house vibes, and that is The Lost Ones by Anita Frank. And it says on the front, "Some houses are never at peace." It's about our main character who goes to stay with her pregnant, I think she's pregnant. Although, why does that always happen in books? I swear, it's always about some character being sent to stay with their pregnant cousin or friend or sister, and while they're at the house, weird stuff happens. That's basically this book, but it's done really, really well. So she's sent to stay with her sister, who is either, I don't remember because I read this a while ago, if she's pregnant or just recently gave birth, but while she's there, she starts to hear stuff in the middle of the night, and then like I think a toy soldier appears on her bed randomly, and she starts to ask questions, but the house owners, her sister's in-laws, act very strangely. They always kind of dismiss it as like, your sister is crazy and needs to go to a mental institution, but really they're hiding something. And it's so spooky. It's set in England in 1917. It has gothic vibes. You can probably tell I like gothic literature. It looks like a haunted house. It looks like the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland. I love it. Okay, this next one. This is possibly my new favorite book of the year. I'm like, I need to calm down. I love this book so much. I just recently filmed a reading vlog with this book, so you'll see more details in that. Okay, so it's Dracul by Dr. I don't know how to say his name. Dacher Stoker and J.D. Barker. I had no idea how mind-blowing this book would be. So, okay, let me back up. This is a prequel to Dracula, and it's the only official prequel that that the Stoker Foundation accepts as an official prequel, because Dacre Stoker is Bram Stoker's great-grandnephew, I think. So what Dacre did is he went to all of Bram Stoker's old journals, diaries, notes when he was writing Dracula. He saw all of this information that wasn't in Dracula, and he used it to make this prequel. I like this one more than Dracula, and I like Dracula a lot, but this one just blew my mind. The whole story is phenomenal. It involves vampires from the very start, like a secret society hunting for vampires, lots of Dracula. Dracula is very present in this novel. And if you want a book that will convince you that vampires are real, this is that book. I don't want to say too much because I talk about it a lot in my reading vlog, but basically there's an author's note at the end, and it's a really lengthy author's note. It talks about how when Bram Stoker first went to publish Dracula, he sat the novel on the publisher's table and said one sentence: "This story is true." Bram Stoker first wanted to publish Dracula as an informative novel to teach people how to stay safe, because according to Bram Stoker, vampires really are real. But at the time, Jack the Ripper was going crazy, and his publisher was like, "Are you kidding? We can't publish this, like it will cause mass panic. We can't do that." And so eventually he agreed that it could be published as a fiction. It's fascinating. It's so fascinating to me. I'm going to say, if you want to read one novel from this whole list that is perfect for Halloween time, for spooky vibes, for reading by the fire at night with a cup of tea, this is that book. Oh, and the audiobook is phenomenal. So if you like audiobooks and listening to really good narrators, I would highly recommend this one. I don't know how to say how much I love it. I feel like Mr. Knightley. If I loved you less, I might be able to talk about it more. I told my husband that I wish I could go study vampires at some university where they teach about vampires. That's probably not a thing, but I wish it was. Okay, moving on. Let's do YA books next. So I actually only have one, but I adore this one with my whole heart and soul. It is perfect for October. It's a retelling of a classic horror novel, and that is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. I love how the cover looks like it's been sewn. Oh, it's so creepy. So as you can probably tell, this is a Frankenstein retelling, but it's from Elizabeth's perspective. And this starts at the very beginning. We see Victor Frankenstein as a child, and how Elizabeth is basically kind of hired not as a governess, but more as a playmate and friend for Victor. Kind of teach him how to be more like a normal child, because he's into really weird stuff, right? He loves killing birds and like tearing them apart. And they're like, "Okay, Elizabeth, can you just like be friends with him and try to teach him how to be normal?" So that's how this novel starts. It follows them throughout their lives and after Victor creates the monster. And in my opinion, this was a really good retelling. I think it was really respectfully well done. I think it's one of those really good books to go in blind. As long as you know that it's a retelling of Frankenstein, that's really all you need to know. Okay, on to classics. So I didn't want to overdo the classics because I know not all of you guys are as into classics as I am. So I picked two that I think you guys might like. The first one being, dun dun dun, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I love this edition. It's the Penguin Horror Classics edition. Okay, so I'm gonna preface by saying this book has very polarizing reviews. People either really like it or really don't like it. And I'm gonna flat out say a lot of people don't like it because not a lot like happens at the end. The whole time we're kind of building up, these people go to this estate and they realize that they have been asked to go there because the person who brought them there wants to investigate this creepy house that he's heard rumors about being haunted, basically. And while they're there, you know, doors start to close, they hear things, especially during the night, and it's really creepy. But at the end, you don't get this massive like reveal. It kind of just leaves it to you to interpret what's going on. It might not be as satisfying as other books, so just go into it knowing that, and I think you would enjoy it more. If you have watched the Netflix series, this is very different. I started the Netflix series, could not do it because I can't do horror. I can't do like, I heard about some woman with like a neck that like she like bends it weird or something. Yeah, no, I can't do that. But if you want more ghosts and more kind of in your face, I would definitely do Home Before Dark or Dracula, because those are more like in your face scary. This is subtly scary and perfect. I think it's perfect. Okay, so this next one is one that I have not finished. I actually only recently started it, and it is also by Shirley Jackson. You guys guess what I'm gonna say. It is We Have Always Lived in the Castle Now, if you know me, you know that I can't really do like modern horror. I can do classic horror like Dracula and Frankenstein and The Haunting of Hill House, which isn't even really horror. It's more like spooky in my opinion, but this is the kind of horror I can get behind. And having only read about half of it so far, I can already say that this is a masterpiece. It's beautifully written, quite disturbing and sinister, and it leaves you with a sense of unease, which is what Shirley Jackson does so well. So it's written in the voice of Mary Catherine Blackwood, who is this 18-year-old girl living with her sister and uncle in this kind of creepy, really big estate in Vermont. 6 years before the events of this novel, the Blackwood family experienced a tragedy that left the three survivors isolated from the rest of this rural village. Her sister has not left the house in, I think, like 6 years since she was acquitted of the poisoning death of their parents. And then we start to see some drama and heightened sense of peril and worry, and it does a really good job of kind of making things seem a bit warm and not so bad, and then throwing the bad at you. I wish I could do a better job of describing it, but it's hard without giving anything away. So just gonna leave you with that. It's really good so far, and I hope that I like the ending. And those are all of them. Did I just flash you guys? No, I didn't. I hope that if you do pick up one of them, or all of them, that you enjoy them. Oh, I forgot. I want to know your favorite spooky novel. So if you could let me know down below, because I need to make my list for next year. Yeah, I've already started a list and I need to add to it. So definitely let me know your favorite spooky novel. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.